tomorrow is still spring high tide, low tide, and we can go right to the water's edge and look at the most amazing things, because springtime is when most things get their babies. So the only things to watch out for is bird babies and seal babies, to avoid those areas, because we can do so much disturbance. So on the eve of World Oceans Day, where most things were curtailed, and there's some wonderful things happening if you click on World Oceans Day, but this, to the best of my knowledge, is the only event which is trying to actually get you out onto the shore. From tomorrow until June 21st, the longest day in the year, when water transparency might be really good, and there's massive growth in this period. The idea of the survey is to fill your heart with joy, as flowers are all flowering now, particularly after the bit of rain we got, and then to look more closely at the shore than you might normally do, and to give feedback like those of you who are doing the Coastwatch survey would do in autumn. Only this time it's much quicker. We're doing no bookings. We're just asking you download a one-page survey form from the website, go down to the shore, clicking on the areas which you want to survey on our Coastwatch map. All that is on our Coastwatch website, and then to give the feedback. Now, what's different about this to what is normally done? We want to really raise awareness about climate change. Last year, one of my master's students, Rita Hagen, was the first to really start methodically looking at what happens during heat waves. For a few years now, we have seen mass deaths of organisms in some areas. Last year, for the first time, we were actually measuring the temperature of the mudflats. And depending on the area, your low tide might be middle of the day in very hot weather. That can get bakingly hot. On some of the rocks, we found the limpets literally cooked on the rock and then falling off in the next low tide. So this is on the concern side. On the positive side, there's lots of life which would really make you feel wonderful. And then there's this, all the talk about climate change and carbon sinks and carbon stores. We are very, very rich in carbon sinks and stores. And the richest area is the area just in the coastal zone. In some areas, it is like a Sachertorte. You have got a base of peat. On that base of peat, which is storing the carbon for hundreds of thousands of years in some cases. You might have a wetland, like a salt marsh, which is both sink and a store. And you might have different types of salt marsh there. Or you might have long-lived seaweeds, like kelp forest. So all of these riches, I think normally we just look at them, but we don't look at their added value. This is also the time where, due to sea level rise, some of these areas are really being threatened, and they're also threatened due to either our ignorance or our illegal action, like making new access points to the shore. So now we just want to thank those who did. We had a pilot run of this survey during Biodiversity Week spring tides, and a few after that. And I think we had 39 sites. So our dream is we want to have 100 sites as a snapshot in spring, in May, June 2020. What are they like now? And we want particularly to have a snapshot of those carbon-rich sites. A few people very kindly went out and did a pilot survey, and we want to see what kind of results we got there. Now, in Lough Foyle, where somebody is working, making an unauthorized access for unlicensed shellfish aquaculture. The access point here is quite large, and just go quite quickly through them. Here we have, just up this one, you have this beautiful, you had beautiful bluebells there, and patches of wet woodland all of this is being damaged. There's no license, no planning permission for that. There was another site, which you now don't see in these photos because we had them in email, where there was a similar unauthorized access. We got notice of that one earlier, and when we got it, we had very kind lawyers who sent, well, we asked all the authorities would they act, and because of COVID, nobody would come out. And then we had very kind lawyers who discovered a bit in the Planning Act which allows citizens to act if authorities don't. Our lawyers sent legal warning letters, and the unauthorized access in County Galway was closed. Now it's not restored yet, but it's closed. So hopefully we'll be able to help the people in Lough Foyle as well. This is still in Lough Foyle, and this is a really beautiful photo of, here is the illegal access, and the other one was of seals. The seal, common seal, is pupping at the moment. So if you see seals with pups, give a good, walk back, let them be, don't disturb them. Go. So here we have a salt marsh. Salt marsh is another habitat which at spring high tides it'll be covered with water, but normally it won't be. And it's very, very important carbon store and carbon sink as the vegetation takes in carbon from the atmosphere, and then it sticks it into the roots and underneath and keeps it there. And one more. Here we have a wonderful big mussel bed in Fingal area, and I think that was Neil Dempsey's slide. I'm terribly sorry if I don't have all the photos now. On the PowerPoint we had the names, but now here we don't, but I'm almost sure if Neil is on this, he might say. These are huge mussel beds which are incredibly valuable for biodiversity. They are sensitive to climate change, and in some areas we have had mass deaths of mussel beds when heat comes together with some other stressor. This is absolutely gorgeous, but again, it is very unusual. This is Salicornia glassworth popping out of the shingle splash zone. What is unusual is that it's so red. Normally Salicornia would be red in autumn, but because the weather was so dry, we now have this very unusual color. Okay. So lugworm again are very, very important. They're living in the mudflats. And that reminds me that you can see a whole pile of the animals and plants we are looking for on a lovely video, which was made by Kathy Harris in the Irish Times and was uploaded yesterday. And afterwards, we will give you the link to that video. It's just a short video, but it's really nice about seagrass and mudflats and hydrobia like this. Keep on having high nutrient content and a lot of sun. This is going to become like a thick carpet in that area. And underneath it, life finds it very difficult to get oxygen. This is another close-up of a mussel bed, and the green handkerchief there is sea lettuce. This is a mussel close-up with its byssus threads. I think that was Neil Dempsey as well. Mudflats and green seaweeds. This is a honeycomb reef, which is very, very special. You see these little holes there. Every little hole has a pink honeycomb reef worm, a subellaria worm in it. And these reefs are only in a few areas. Waterford Estuary is the most important site in Ireland and one of the most important in Europe. But this one is actually actively developing and increasing, found by Mick Berry on the coast towards Kilmore Quay. Just now I can't remember. Blackhall is, I think, the site. Okay. That's one of the little lads who was surveying with him. And here you have the pink corallina seaweed, just at the bottom of where the date is, you have a little bit of this corallina. That seaweed, red seaweed, is very sensitive to climate change, to bleaching. And you can see more of it now after really bright sunshine, that it goes all white, bleached. These are birds in a mudflat area with beautiful salt marsh rim as well. And this is sand mason. These they look like little sticks with almost like trees with branches at the top. We also ask you, because this is the time, so, and there are a few more as well. This is, the fish would be hiding in pools or under seaweeds or under stones. And this is the time when the eels, the baby eels, come in from the Sargasso Sea and would hide under stones before going in strawberry anemone, before going upstreams. So in this survey, we are asking you to lift 4 stones and check if there are any fish underneath. And if they are, try and be ready so that you can photograph. Wow. And I don't even know, we need one of the fishy people to identify this guy. So one fisherman in the Waterford estuary, Sean Doherty, saw sand martins, little birds which live on the ocean. So for World Oceans Day, it's almost like a symbol of it. They only come to land to breed all the rest of the time. They mate, they feed, they sleep in the sky and on the water. They come in to breed. And he was seeing them flying quite agitated. So he went to follow where they came from, and he saw heaps of sand and about 50 sand mason nests, a breeding colony in that sand. But he also saw that that was an active site which belonged to a cement company, and that there was one digger mark right at one end of that breeding colony where you could see the digger scrapes from the front loader going in. So he made the video and he called me, and I sent a note to the managing director of the cement company, and advised him what he had. And under the birds directive, this sand masons were to stay there until their young had fledged. And 1.5 hours later, he came and he said, I've been out. We hadn't noticed them. We are immediately going to stop all work in that part of the site until the young have fledged. And then underneath it, he said, when will they fledge? It shows that if you act, sometimes you need to act really quickly and you can protect things. And sometimes it takes longer. And there are some really big problems which take a lot of time and may even take legislation and really bad, but and can be really bad for nature, like mass death of organisms. But now we're going to get a new government, and we are hoping that there will be a lot of changes, a lot more precautionary approach, a lot of changes maybe to the Foreshore Act and in maritime spatial planning. So what you are going to, any of you who have already participated or who might participate now between the 8th and 21st of June, that data is hugely important and should feed into policy and interaction, and particularly into our first maritime spatial plan. So thank you very much. I will finish now and invite Grace O'Sullivan to officially launch our survey.